Lieutenant Sarah Chen had been warned about bringing unauthorized lifeforms aboard the ISS Artemis, but she'd never been good at following rules she considered stupid. Which is why she was currently standing in Captain Voron's office with her pet, wrapped around her shoulders, facing what could charitably be called an interstellar incident. "Explain," Captain Voron said, his 6 eyes locked on the creature draped across Sarah's neck like a living scarf. "Why there is a Kreshka death viper in my ready room." Sarah stroked the creature's obsidian scales gently. "Her name is Noodle. Itiasa Nam." The shout came from Security Chief Zalthor, a massive Draxian whose combat armor seemed inadequate protection against his current level of panic. "Lieutenant, that thing's venom can dissolve a Grathian's exoskeleton in under 6 seconds? Only if threatened," Sarah said calmly. Noodle, as if to prove the point, yawned, displaying rows of crystalline fangs that could punch through starship hull plating. Then she nuzzled affectionately against Sarah's cheek. The room fell silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. Dr. Zemeth, the station xenobiologist, tentatively approached, her crystalline appendages trembling. "Lieutenant Chen, I need you to understand the biological impossibility of what I'm witnessing. Kreshka death vipers are apex predators from a Class 9 death world. They're solitary, hyper-aggressive, and have never been successfully contained by any known species. 3 research stations have been completely sterilized trying to study them." "Ha!" Sarah said, scratching under Noodle's chin. The creature's tail, easily capable of shattering reinforced steel, wrapped contentedly around Sarah's arm. "She seems pretty chill to me. CIL?" Zalthor backed against the wall despite being 3 times Sarah's size. "That abomination killed 17 researchers on Kepler Station last year. Did those researchers try petting her?" Sarah asked innocently. Captain Voron rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. "Lieutenant Chen, perhaps you could start from the beginning. How did you acquire a Kreshka death viper?" Sarah's expression softened. "Found her on Thresh 7 during the survey mission. She was trapped in a collapsed mining shaft, injured. Left rear segment was crushed, probably from falling rocks. She was dying, Captain. And your response was to approach it." Dr. Zemeth's voice pitched higher. "Well, yeah, she was hurt." Sarah said this like it was the most obvious thing in the galaxy. "So I cleared the rocks, stabilized the injury site with my emergency med kit, and carried her back to the shuttle. You car-rided a Kreshka death viper. She was in pain. What was I supposed to do, just leave her?" Sarah's voice took on an edge that made even Captain Voron shift uncomfortably. "Look, I know the regulations say no unauthorized fauna, but I also know humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We see something hurt, we help it. It's kind of our thing." Zalthor pulled up a holographic display. "Lieutenant, I'm showing footage from your helmet cam during the survey mission." He played it for the room. The video showed Sarah approaching the trapped viper, which was clearly attempting to strike despite its injuries. Its fangs, dripping with venom, missed Sarah's face by centimeters multiple times. Any rational being would have retreated. Instead, Sarah just kept talking. "Hey there, beautiful. I know you're scared. I know it hurts. I'm going to help, okay? Just try not to bite me. I really can't afford the medical leave right now." In the footage, she'd carefully moved rocks while the viper hissed and struck weakly. When she finally freed its crushed segment, the creature had gone eerily still. Then, inexplicably, it had allowed Sarah to treat the wound. The moment it stopped attacking, Dr. Zemeth said, "That should have been your first warning sign. Kreshkas don't retreat. They fight until they kill or die. Maybe they just needed someone to give them a chance." Sarah replied, gently repositioning Noodle, who had started to slip. "After I patched her up, she just stayed with me. Followed me back to the shuttle. I couldn't exactly shoo her away." "You're describing pack bonding?" Captain Voron said slowly. "Kreshka death vipers don't pack bond. They don't bond with anything. Neither did cats originally," Sarah countered. "Or wolves. Or horses. Or half the species we domesticated on Earth. But humans have this weird talent for looking at apex predators and going, but what if we were friends, though?" Noodle chose that moment to emit a sound like grinding glass. Apparently her version of purring. Zalthor looked like he might faint. "It's purring. The death viper is purring. She does that when she's happy," Sarah said proudly. "Also when I feed her. Speaking of which, she's due for dinner. Do we have any of those fusion core coolant rats from the cargo bay? She loves those."
"Oh, Visa."
Dr. Zemeth's crystals practically vibrated. "Lieutenant, you're feeding it? Regularly? 3 times a day. Sometimes 4 if she's been extra active. Oh, and she likes it when I read to her before sleep cycle. Currently we're going through The Old Man and the Sea. I think she relates to the Marlin. The room stared in collective disbelief. Captain Voren cleared his throat. Lieutenant Chen, I need to ask you a serious question. Are you aware that what you're doing is completely insane? Sir, with all due respect, Earth's history is built on humans befriending things that should eat us. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We made friends with murder birds and called them chickens. We looked at wild boars, creatures that can gore a person to death, and decided to make bacon. This, she gestured to Noodle. This is just following a very long human tradition. The tradition of adopting things that want to kill you, Xalthar asked weakly. The tradition of recognizing that with patience, respect, and snacks, almost anything can become family. Dr. Zemeth pulled up her datapod, scrolling through files with increasing agitation. I'm looking at human domestication history now. You people tamed? Tigers? Lions? Bears? Some of them, yeah. You made pets out of apex predators from your own death world. Earth's not that bad. Sarah protested. I mean, sure, everything either wants to eat you, poison you, or both, but you learn to work with it. Captain Voren stood, walking carefully around his desk to examine Noodle from a safe distance. The Viper tracked his movement but made no aggressive moves, seemingly content in Sarah's presence. This defies all xenobiological understanding, he said quietly. Kreshkas are solitary ambush predators. They're incapable of forming social bonds. It's not in their brain chemistry. Maybe, Sarah suggested. Everyone just assumed that because nobody ever tried being nice to them. As if understanding the conversation, Noodle lifted her head and fixed all 6 of her eyes on the captain. For a tense moment, the room held its breath. Then the Viper yawned again and laid her head back on Sarah's shoulder. Unbelievable, Xalthar muttered. Dr. Zemeth was frantically taking notes. I need to study this. The implications for xenobiology are staggering. If humans can form bonds with Kreshkas, what else is possible? Well, Sarah said thoughtfully, there was this other thing I found on Thresh 7. Kind of like a spider, but the size of a shuttle, and it screams in frequencies that shatter glass. I named her Charlotte, but she's still a bit shy, so I left her in my quarters. T-H-Raz Anautar Oni! Xalthar practically teleported backwards. Mostly. Just don't make sudden movements near her egg sac. E.g. sacs! Captain Voren raised all 4 hands in a calming gesture. Everyone, please. Let's focus on the immediate issue. He turned to Sarah. Lieutenant, I cannot allow you to keep a Kreshka Death Viper aboard this vessel. It violates at least 17 safety regulations and possibly an interstellar treaty or 2. Sarah's expression hardened. With respect, Captain, Noodle goes where I go. She's not a Kreshka Death Viper. She's Noodle. She's my friend. And I don't abandon friends. Lieutenant, sir, I'm human. We don't do well with being told we can't keep something just because it's dangerous. That's basically a challenge to us. Besides, she scratched under Noodle's chin again, she's already imprinted on me. Separating us now would likely kill her, or make her very, very angry. And I don't think anyone in this room wants to see an angry Kreshka Death Viper. The room fell silent as everyone considered this scenario. Finally, Dr. Zemeth spoke up. Captain, I may have a solution. What if we allowed Lieutenant Chun to keep the creature under strict scientific observation? This could be a groundbreaking opportunity to study human Xenofauna bonding. You want to enable this madness? Xalthar asked incredulously. I want to understand it. Dr. Zemeth corrected. Humans have a documented history of forming impossible bonds with lethal creatures. If we can study this phenomenon, imagine the applications. Hostile fauna on frontier worlds could potentially be befriended. Captain Voren considered this. And the spider. Charlotte stays in quarters with supervised feeding times, Sarah said quickly. She's actually really good at catching the maintenance drones that go rogue. Very helpful. The captain closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. I'm going to regret this. Lieutenant Chen, you may keep your pets. Under the following conditions, they remain under constant monitoring. You're personally responsible for any damages or injuries, and you submit daily reports to Dr. Zemeth. Yes, sir! Thank you, sir! Sarah beamed. And if there are ANY other creatures you befriended, I expect a full report by end of shift. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Define any other? Lieutenant? Okay. So there might be a colony of plasma beetles in Cargo Bay 3, but they're really good at keeping the pest population down, and this one gravity squid kind of followed me back from the last mission, but it's super friendly and only accidentally crushed 2 supply crates and Jeet-oat. Captain Voren's roar sent Sarah scurrying toward the door, Noodle still wrapped peacefully around her shoulders. As the door closed, Dr. Zemeth turned to the captain. This is unprecedented, sir. Humans might have just revolutionized our understanding of Xenofauna relations. Or, Zalthar added darkly, they're gonna get us all killed by befriending things that shouldn't be befriended. Captain Vorin slumped in his chair. I joined the fleet to explore strange new worlds, discover new civilizations. Nobody warned me about humans and their compulsive need to adopt everything. Later that evening, Sarah sat in her quarters with Noodle coiled contentedly on her heated sleeping pad, Charlotte the spider, then clicking softly in her terrarium, and a small swarm of plasma beetles humming harmoniously in their containment field. "You know what, guys?" Sarah said, offering Noodle a treat. "People always underestimate what a little kindness can do. They look at you and see monsters, but I see family." Noodle's purr like grinding filled the room. Charlotte tapped gently on her terrarium glass in what Sarah had learned was affection. The plasma beetles swirled in patterns that almost looked like hearts. And somewhere in the ship's database, Dr. Zemeth was filing a report that would change interstellar xenobiology forever. Humans recommend observation rather than restriction. Their ability to form bonds with hostile life forms is inexplicable but potentially revolutionary. Side note, check all human quarters for unauthorized fauna. They cannot help themselves. Because that was the thing about humans. You could warn them about danger, list all the reasons something was a bad idea, cite every regulation and safety protocol, and they'd still look at the most dangerous creature in the galaxy and say, but what if I gave it a name and some snacks? And somehow, impossibly, it would work.